step back in time, viewers, to an era of monumental innovation, a time when colossal machines hummed with the promise of a digital dawn. Welcome to a tale of visionaries and breakthroughs, a story that begins with the first flicker of a connection that would shape the course of human interaction forever. Imagine a world where computers, those enigmatic behemoths of data processing, exist in splendid isolation, where those machines knit together into a tapestry of communication and collaboration was just a fever dream. But in today's interconnected world, we often take the internet for granted. This is how it all began. Join us as we dive into a pivotal moment in history, the first successful internet connection that laid the foundation for the global network we know today. Picture yourself in the late 1960s. A time of remarkable innovation and technological exploration. Computer systems were clunky, enormous, and isolated. But a groundbreaking project was about to change everything. In the corridors of research institutions, a symphony of intellect echoed. The late 1960s bore witness to an audacious project that would forge a path to a new frontier. This project was none other than the Advanced Research Projects Agency Network, also known as ARPANET. A visionary endeavor born from the minds of trailblazing thinkers at the U.S. Department of Defense Advanced Research Projects Agency. ARPANET aimed to create a network that would connect computers, enabling them to communicate and share resources over long distances. But before we delve into the first internet message, let's understand the technological landscape of the time.
Major ideas within the computing community within the last decade. The first was time sharing, which was being advocated very hard at the beginning of the decade. The key thing that was being observed was that there was a lot better way to interact with a computer. The second major idea, though, of the last decade has been the notion that computer networks were not only needed but were valuable, and they are gradually coming into fruition.
The computer technology has been moving in a way that nothing else people have ever known has moved. Here's a field that gets 1,000 times as good in 20 years. The communication field hasn't been able to keep pace, but the melding of computers and communication and the switch to digital communication technology, aided and abetted by satellites, is doing something pretty good for communication.
The problem is much like small civilizations or small cities trying to develop separately and not having any way of sharing what they learn with other groups. And if that continues to happen, you don't have a civilization. So that the necessity was to provide a mechanism so that what was learned one place could be transferred effectively and directly to other places without redoing it all and learning it all over again at each place. The problems were not in the computers, we found out. The computers could talk to one another, even though they were very different. And time-sharing systems that existed in each computer were perfectly capable of achieving that. The real problem that we found was that the communications was inadequate.
And ideally, what we wanted to do was to use a common carrier offering. Unfortunately, there was no wideband switched common carrier offering at the time.
Our problem at BBN was to build a new kind of digital communication system, employing wideband leased lines and message switching. Message switching is where each path is not established in advance and each message carries an address. We wanted this new communication system to support all the various kinds of resource sharing which were so important. At the same time, we wanted to build a digital communication system which would stand in its own right as a better, more economical, a higher performance, and faster and more reliable digital communication system.
The underlying concept of that network would have to embody the efficient utilization of communication resources, as well as to provide a system which was both reliable, error-free, and provide the high bandwidth needed for interactive use of those resources. This means that users sitting at a terminal would be able to hit a key and see a response virtually instantly, almost as if that computer, wherever it were, looked like it was in the same room. A simple way to interconnect computers and to form such a network is to place wideband leased circuits, in the case of the ARPANET 50 kilobit per second circuits, between each of the computers, and then to interconnect each of the computers to each other to form a fully connected network. As more sites come onto the network, the requirement is then to connect that site to every other one, which means that the extension of the network is just not a graceful thing. And so this naturally leads to the concept of a store and forward technique in order to cut down on the expense of building such a network. And so let's erase these lines over here to leave ourselves for the moment with a loop network which can be extended. And in this type of network, this computer, for example, would talk to this computer not by sending in a message directly, since there is no circuit, but sending a message first to this computer, which would then store it and forward it onto this computer, thereby acting as a relay. In order to have a reliable network of this sort, each of the individual computers must be sufficiently reliable to maintain the kind of communications that's needed. But unfortunately, most computer installations are just not reliable enough, and this leads to the notion of a small mini processor to take on the functions of the computers and to allow a single design to then be propagated among all the installations, so that we would put a little mini processor at each computer, like that, disconnect the 50 kilobit circuits linking the computers themselves, and then interconnect these little mini processors, or IMPs, with the wideband circuits, and interconnect the computers to the IMPs in this fashion. Now, such a network would then operate essentially in the same fashion as the previous one, with this computer talking to this computer by first sending a message to its IMP, having this IMP relay it to this IMP, and this IMP relay it to this IMP, and then this IMP deliver it to the final destination. Now, this kind of a network can be made to be extremely reliable, since an effective control can be placed upon the design of each of these IMPs, since there is no large political problem in getting a large number of sites to cooperate in the design and building of the communications part of the system.
In the 1960s, computers were complex machines, often confined to specific institutions. Communication between these computers was limited or non-existent. The concept of packet switching, a fundamental building block of the modern Internet, was in its infancy. Fast forward to October 29, 1969, the stage was set for a historic event that would change the course of technology forever. At 10:30 p.m., a message was scheduled to be sent from a computer at UCLA's Network Measurement Center to a computer at Stanford Research Institute. The message was intended to be logged in. But the system crashed after transmitting only the letters LO. Despite this hiccup, a revolutionary moment had occurred. The first internet message might seem simple by today's standards, but it marked the successful transmission of data using packet switching, a breakthrough that paved the way for the global network we rely on today. The impact of this achievement was profound. ARPANET demonstrated the feasibility of connecting computers over long distances, igniting a wave of technological advancements that would shape the future. ARPANET continued to evolve, leading to the development of TCP/IP, a set of protocols that underpins the modern Internet. This transformative technology enabled seamless communication between diverse computer systems. As the 1970s progressed, ARPANET expanded, connecting more institutions and researchers. The groundwork was laid for the transition from ARPANET to the Internet we know today. The Internet's growth was exponential. Email, file transfers, and other innovations flourished, transforming the way people communicated, collaborated, and accessed information. The first Internet connection was a pivotal moment that sparked a technological revolution. It laid the foundation for a digital landscape where borders dissolve, knowledge is accessible to all, and communication knows no bounds. From those early days of ARPANET, the Internet has woven itself into the fabric of our very lives, touching every corner of the globe, connecting minds and hearts, and bridging cultures and continents. Every click, every message, every shared moment is a tribute to the legacy of that first Internet connection, the moment when humanity reached across the void to touch the stars of possibility. Remember that every click carries a piece of history. Every search shapes the future, and every connection, the legacy of that very first one. But our exploration doesn't end here. The journey continues, and we invite you to be a part of it. Join us in unraveling the untold stories, celebrating the unsung heroes, and uncovering what is oftentimes forgotten. Subscribe, click that notification bell, and embark on this voyage of discovery together.